Welcome to the Real Estate Baller Show. 600 houses a year. Can you imagine buying that many houses a year and what all it takes to keep the train from running off the track? I am thrilled to present a true baller and an industry titan, Scott Pennebaker. This man has built a massive wholesaling operation in 12 markets and 6 states. And what's even better, he doesn't plan to stop anytime soon. But listen closely for the twist on Scott's background before jumping into wholesaling.
My name's Scott Pennebaker, co-founder of a company called REBuilt. I reside in Lexington, Kentucky with my beautiful wife and 2 children. And REBuilt is a growing wholesale company. We are in 12 markets across 6 states, and we've successfully integrated title, lending, and brokerage into our model and just launched our marketplace, which is really cool. You can find all of our properties at marketplace.rebuilt.com.
Yeah, let's dive into that REBuilt company. We had a chance to chat, and I thought that was the coolest thing. So tell us more about it. What is it? What does it do? And how did you start?
Yeah, so I actually have been investing in real estate since 2010, 2011. Actually bought a course through Fortune Builders, Thay and Merrill and those guys.
Yes.
And went through the Fortune Builders course really to get confidence, just to make sure I wasn't making a mistake, and learned a ton from that course. Actually, the cost of the course seemed astronomical at the time, but I made it back within like my first deal and a half. So it's paid for itself many times over. But I started really as just buying a few rentals here and there, doing a few fix and flips, and it was a side job for me. And then I had a college textbook company. We wholesale textbooks instead of wholesaling houses. And so at that time I was running.
That's where you got your wholesale training background?
Right. I got my background, cut my teeth in textbooks. And so in 2015, I sold equity to in the textbook company to my 2 current partners of REBuilt now. And at that time, we all loved real estate. So we started buying property together between 2015 and 2018. We sourced and bought about 150 doors, mainly from wholesalers, was how we were finding the inventory. We were the buyers in the market. We were fixing up the properties, rebuilding the communities, and really using the BRRRR method to buy them in cash, fix them in cash, refinance them, put them on a mortgage, and then rent them out and have them under property management. In 2018, we're like, man, we've paid these wholesalers a fortune. Maybe we could send out some direct mail and source direct to seller ourselves. So that's really why we had started, was to source properties for our real estate portfolio. We started getting so many contracts. We're like, we can't close on all these and manage all these construction projects. Let's assign some in our local network, and quickly realized that it was much more scalable than fix and flipping or managing construction projects. And then the truth about rental property is that it doesn't kick off a ton of cash early on. We were leveraged at 80% on most of these properties. So if they had a few $100s per door cash flow a month, that was great. But our position was never to take money out of the rental portfolio. It was just to continue to buy more. But 2018 to 2020, textbooks really started to go flat. A lot of that stuff started to push online. And if there was no physical textbook, we didn't have anything to sell. So we saw the writing on the wall and thought, well, we need to generate income, because that the textbooks could slowly dry up. And so at that time we said, well, then maybe this assigning contracts and wholesaling is much more scalable and will kick off more income than, just a general real estate portfolio will in the early days.
I'm gonna just dive into the textbook thing real quick, because I thought that was the coolest thing I ever heard.
Everyone's always intrigued with the textbooks.
Well, yes, because I know we're in real estate, right? But I still remember back in college, like a bunch of us put them together, buy the books, and then we go make copies, so we don't have to pay like a couple $100 for a book.
And I hope the publishers didn't know that. But you can't say that; they'll come after you. You're out of the statute of limitations now, I think. So
there you go. Yeah. So, but you guys were selling textbook in like a lot of colleges across America, or just in your state, or what?
No, that's a great question. So I started locally. Publishing companies have what's called a pub rep, publishing rep, similar to the drug company has a drug rep. But instead of giving out free drugs to doctors to prescribe, they give out free textbooks to professors to adopt. So the professor may get 6 books for his Finance 101 course next semester to review. He picks one, and the other 5 just sit on his shelf and collect dust. Just because he's not using that book at University of Kentucky doesn't mean that someone's not using that book at University of Houston, another professor. So what we would do is actually buy back from the professors directly in the business school or the accounting department or whatever college. We would buy those books back from the professors and then resell them on eBay and Amazon direct to students. So the nice thing is that the e-commerce business gave us a bookstore, a college bookstore, in every university across the country without having to have a brick and mortar location. So all of the books were housed here in Lexington. We had a 20,000 square foot warehouse, and we would fulfill orders out of that warehouse. And then we had, at the time when we shut it down, we had about 120 reps across the country sourcing all over campuses. Then they would ship all the books into Lexington, Kentucky. We would pay the reps for their commissions for the books, and then post them on Amazon and fulfill orders on the back end.
That's amazing. You probably got them turned fast enough that you didn't have to worry about get damaged, destroyed by termites and stuff.
Oh, we plastic wrapped some of those books but we did turn them over quickly. The thing about the shelf life on a textbook is pretty short. When you go back to sell your book at the bookstore and they'd be like, oh, there's a new edition out, we're not using that book next semester. And you'd be like, what? I just paid $150 for this 3 months ago. The publishers did that by design because they didn't make money. They don't make money on used textbooks, only when it's sold new. So every other year, the authors, who are many times professors, are under contract to update the textbooks to a new edition so that the publishers can sell a new copy. Although the authors and professors self-admittedly would say, I don't really have anything extra to put in here, so we just moved a chapter from like the front to the back, and that way they could call it a new edition. So the publishers definitely have always tried to have a war against used textbooks because they get cut out of the picture.
So then you sold that company, or you dissolved the company?
We did dissolve the company. We looked for a buyer. We just waited a few years too late. Back to the publisher suing everybody, it got real litigious because of copyright law. A lot of companies were importing textbooks from overseas that were counterfeit copies. And in the U.S., there's something called strict liability and copyright law. So if you sell a textbook that's deemed to be counterfeit, knowing or not knowing, you're still liable for up to $10,000 per occurrence. So these publishers actually hired the former Napster attorneys to then go on Amazon and start buying copies from the top sellers on Amazon. And then if they got one, they would inspect it. And if they thought it may be counterfeit, they would send you a cease and desist. And then you had to actually spend money to prove that it wasn't counterfeit, and it just got really litigious. So with that and a bunch of content moving online, we just said, hey, we're spinning our wheels and spending our money and all our time in a dying business. We love real estate. We have something great going on here. This is what we should be focused on. So in 2020, when COVID hit, we were able to get some PPP money to help our warehouse staff kind of land on their feet and help us shut down the business and get rid of the rest of the inventory. And it would just seem like it was a good time to move on. It actually worked out well because we were able to repurpose some of our top sales reps in the textbook company by saying, hey, we're locked out of college campuses. Your business is kind of going away. We don't know when we'll be back on campus. Would you like to learn about real estate and how to invest in real estate? And some of them were like, yeah, that sounds great. So from there, we were able to open up other offices for Rebuilt in places like Austin and San Antonio, Texas. So we wouldn't really be there in Texas, I don't think, at this stage of Rebuilt had we not gone through that with the textbooks and had those contacts in that great state of Texas.
So you were kind of leading me into like, how did you transfer the skill, what you built in your textbook business into the real estate business? I'm sorry for this interruption. I've been asked a lot about passive investment. And let's be real, there is nothing passive about being a landlord unless you have a really good property management company. So if you own an Airbnb or a short-term rental and you want to get back your time, please give our team at Buzz Vacation Rental a call at 281-549-8432 or go to our website at pm.buzzvacationrentals.com. Now back to the Real Estate Baller Show. You kind of lead me into that. So did you go into real estate and just like throw everything in and just go big, or did you start out conservatively?
Definitely conservatively.
What happened?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Definitely conservatively. Like I said, it was a side project for me. It was a passion. Right out of college, I went into the mortgage industry. So I learned about loan to value, and this was 2003. I learned that you can use banks' money to build a balance sheet and how to leverage financing and whatnot. And in 2003, I was a kid out of college. I had no idea that these loans I was writing would lead to the crash of 2008 and the Dodd-Frank and all that. We were writing.
Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, we were writing crazy. I had no idea that these loan products were as obscene as they were until I look back. But, 100% loan to value, one day out of a bankruptcy discharge on a stated or no income verification loan. It was bound to blow up. But that's when I really realized, hey, I like real estate. And so I got into textbooks in 2005, and then in 2010, 2011, started buying just some rental properties, doing a couple small flips on the side, just as a hobby, really. It was a side business and trying to grow something for the future. But I was still really very much in the textbooks and in the weeds of that day to day. When I met my current partner, Brandon Devlin, in 2013, we worked together in a door-to-door company in college, but we reconnected in 2013. He had stayed on with that company all throughout the 2000s, so he had a lot of warm sales relationships. And he said, I'm like, Brandon, textbooks is a prescription industry. If we can get the books, we can sell them. He said, okay, let me go bring over some sales reps. He brought like 40 sales reps in the first year, and the company kind of exploded. And then Brandon and I are running around with our hair on fire because we have all these inventory coming in and no processes, no systems.
What, you got 40 people from the textbook business into your house buying business?
No, what I was saying is that he brought over 40 people in the textbook business to buy textbooks. They were in other sales jobs.
Okay.
And then we connected with his cousin, Al, was working on Wall Street for BlackRock. And Brandon and I are sales guys. And you may know this, that sales guys aren't typically the best operators. So we needed an operator to come in, and that was Al. And so he came in and helped us set up the systems in the textbooks and helped us build kind of our mobile app and the finances. So we always joked that Brandon would make sure we got the books. I would make sure that they got sold, and Al would make sure we made money doing it. And it's very similar to REBuilt. Al's the systems and process guy, Brandon's the operator, and then I'm out here, selling the vision and selling the company. So we really make a good team together in that regards.
So the three of you went into REBuilt and started REBuilt
That's right,
together.
We were already equity partners in the textbook company, so it seemed like a natural fit.
Yeah.
And our wives love each other. Our kids call each other cousins, and I'm Uncle Scott and Uncle B. So it's definitely feels like a family business, even though it's grown to the size that it has. And we really try to keep that in our culture at REBuilt.
That always helps,
Absolutely.
Right? Because if your wives don't like each other, that would be a big
problem. Recipe for
disaster, right? That's right. Okay, so when you guys started out, let's go back to the day one of REBuilt. What did it look like?
It was me and one intern from the University of Kentucky. So we said, hey, we're going to drop some mail. We'll take some calls, see some appointments. And we were only in Lexington. That's where most of our real estate holdings were. When Al and Brandon came into the textbook company, they ran a lot of the day-to-day, and it freed me up to do the real estate on the side for the three of us. And so that was most of the projects. And the rental properties were all here in Lexington. So it was one guy and I taking calls, running appointments, signing up contracts. And again, a lot of those we were trying to source for ourselves, and then just quickly realized that we don't want to have 10 open construction projects going. So let's assign them to other investors in our network. I think our first assignment was like $3,000, and we were over the moon. We were like, "Oh my gosh, it works!" And then it grew from there. You know, 5,000, 7,000, 10,000, and we kind of started to figure it out and realized that it's very scalable. And so our second office, at the time, Al was living in Philadelphia, so we opened an office in Philadelphia. Brandon was in Nashville, so that was our third office was in Nashville. We had those three by the beginning of 2020, and then COVID hit, right? And like, oh my gosh, stop direct mail. We don't know what's going on. We got to focus on shutting down the textbook business. So it kind of took the summer to do that, and then we're like, you know what, this is crazy. We have to eat. So let's fire the mail campaigns back up. And then, as you know, like COVID just led to an insane boost in the real estate market, and we opened up offices in Knoxville and Chattanooga later in 2020. And then in 2021, we opened up Austin, San Antonio, and then we added Huntsville and Birmingham. And so now we're in 12 markets in 6 states. And, you know, last year we did about 600 transactions. We're tracking, if we can get back to 600 this year, I think we'd be pretty happy because we've built out a lot of the systems and processes. You know, we formed a lot of bad habits in a really good market. It was easy to move deals. So now that it's gotten a little harder to dispo deals, we've gone back to really building out systems and processes and making sure there's SOPs and KPIs and what a real sales organization looks like, and how to do this successfully at scale, and ensure that we can put $1 in and get $3 out on the back end for our investors.
Okay, so a couple of things I want to address here. First, the big elephant in the room. You know, everyone said, don't wholesale. You gotta, you know, build your rental portfolio and this and that to build wealth, right? Because wholesaling, what they saying is a job. You just gotta keep it going. But in your example, your experience, it's like, I don't want to buy everything, so I'm going to wholesale. What's your thought on that?
Well, sourcing direct to seller is, you know, obviously the best way to find deals. So at any time, if we want to add to our real estate portfolio, you know, and we continue to do so, we'll pick up deals. Right now, we don't have the bandwidth to manage construction projects, so we look at things that are more turnkey that might fit into the portfolio. So in late 2021, Al, with his connections on Wall Street, was able to work with a group approached us called LL Funds. They had just invested and were taking OfferPad public. They liked our model because it was balance sheet light, meaning OfferPad and iBuyers, they have to carry a ton of property on their books to do that at scale. And they liked that we didn't carry a lot of property on our books. We didn't have a lot of construction going on. So there was less margin for error, or maybe more margin for error, I guess I should say. So they liked that it was balance sheet light and that it was something that was transactional and kind of turnkey. There are elements to what we're building, though. We've seen just from when the market shifted that having a transactional business can be hard. So there's things that we want to add on and layer in, like property management and some of the other services for outside companies like title and lending, and maybe even eventually coaching that could survive and do well even in a down market.
All right. So in 2020, 21, 22 even, anybody can get into real estate and make money because, you know, they
That's
just
right.
appreciate, right? There's a lot of, forgiveness coming here now in 2023. Are you finding that you now having to really look at your number more carefully when you guys, you know, get them under contract? And are you seeing a shrinkage in your profit margin versus, you know, the last couple of years?
Absolutely we have. We've probably seen a 40% reduction in the profit margin per deal. The bid-ask spread, you know, it took 6 months, 8 months for sellers to realize that the market had shifted. I think investors knew in about 2 months. So you still, in the fall of last year, had sellers wanting spring 2022 pricing, and you're like, it's just not that market. Let me show you why. Here's what a mortgage at 7.5% pencils out to versus a mortgage at 3.5%, and just show them that the cash flow is pretty much eaten up just by that excess interest rate. So you really have to do a lot more education with sellers in the home. Our competitive advantage, there's a lot of wholesale companies out there that only close over the phone. We actually have physical offices in the markets, and we sit down with the seller in their home. That's mine. Brandon's background is direct sales and door-to-door. So we sit at the kitchen table with Mrs. Jones, and we do a sales presentation, and we walk through repairs. We make sure that the seller walks the property with us and helps us fill out a property repair estimate form. We share comparable sales and really break down the numbers and make sure it's a very transparent process, that the offer that we're giving, they understand why it is what it is. So I think that allows us to build trust by being in the home and really kind of holding their hand through the process.
Yeah, I do believe this is a people business. You gotta be face to face with people for it to
100%.
happen. Hey, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.
It's hard to do that over the phone. We do have a phone element.
Right. Yeah.
50% of our sellers are landlords. For them, it's just a calculation. They just appreciate the fact of an easy sale. So for them and us, it's a calculation. It's not an emotional sale. But when you're meeting with, someone who raised their kids in the home or their grandkids, like, you need to very much show empathy, and that's harder to do over the phone versus in person.
Okay, so as far as wholesale operation, I feel like for it to be meaningful, you have to have a big operation. What's your thought on that? Because, if you're one person wholesaling, you do a deal here and a deal there, it really become a job.
Absolutely. Oh, well, don't get me wrong. I have a job. We went from 7 people to 70 people in about 18 months. And so just the management and the change management and the process, the people process, and just ensuring that comp plans are right and motivate the right people, and that you're managing up or you're managing out. And just, I've learned a lot. I've always been an entrepreneur and worked for myself. I'd never really worked in any kind of corporate environment. So this is really my first experience with that. And I've learned a ton. It's been a very humbling experience. I never thought that Rebuilt would grow this large, and we're just kind of at the precipice of what we're trying to build. I mean, we're going to build $1 billion company with our technology, and with all the things that we're doing on that side of the space. So it's exciting. I've always dreamed big, right? But it's definitely challenging and has challenges having just so many people that, you want to do right by, and you want to make sure that they're motivated, and we all know kind of the North Star that we're driving for, that the vision is passed down by the leadership, so that everyone feels good about it and they don't just feel like they're coming to punch a clock every day. Every one of our builders at Rebuilt have equity in the company, so we're all aligned to make this vision a reality. But yeah, I think you could do it as a smaller shop. The biggest expense with wholesaling is marketing. The expense that you put in to find the sellers, whether that's PPC, whether that's direct mail, whether it's running a VA phone team. We do all these things, by the way, texting.
Well, entertain us. What kind of range are you spending on marketing a month?
I would say,
if that's something you can share.
300 to 400,000 probably a month in marketing, probably 300,000 a month. Yeah.
And that's in 12 markets.
Yeah. We're hiring right now, and we tell all of our new acquisition reps when we come on, we invest $200,000 a year in each rep in their market. So when they come in, we spend marketing to drive appointments for that rep of upwards of $200,000 per year per person, and through all various channels. However, to hit our goals, that'll only drive about 70% of the appointments that you need to run each week. So we want each rep running 10 appointments a week, converting 2 to 3 contracts per week. We'll drive 70% of those appointments through our marketing budget. But you have to learn to hunt as well. You got to be a dog, and you got to be able to hunt. And so that means you have to be networking with agents. You have to be networking with investors. You have to be making offers on FSBOs, making offers on market properties, attending auctions, anywhere you can source a property from that doesn't come from our marketing. You need to source, 30% of those on your own. And we teach people how to hunt. And that's a valuable thing when you come to work with REBallers, is that people pay thousands. I paid thousands of dollars to learn how to invest in real estate. When you come work here, we'll teach you how to do it and really kind of incubate our future investors, because we want our builders to buy rental property. Rental property is a great way to become a millionaire. It's probably one of the easiest ways to become a millionaire in this country. So,
Totally agree.
it's very important that people know that they have that opportunity, that they come to work with us, and they can source property off our marketplace. We have a lending arm that can help lend the money to them, and hard money. We have a title company. We have brokerage services. So a lot of things that we can provide not only to the outside client, but also for our people inside. And they learn how to analyze and underwrite a deal. You need to know how to do that to even sell a deal to an investor. So it's really important that you learn that part of the business. And it's not just sourcing from sellers and how to make an offer, but it's also how to sell it and how to position it as a good investment so an investor will buy it on the back end. We have a much easier time right now. It's shifted. It used to be harder to find the deal, easier to sell the deal. Now it's easier to find the deal and harder to sell the deal. So we've definitely had challenge with dispositions.
Why is that?
I think it's just because the market shifted with interest rates, to be honest. The investors are more particular. I think there's a lot of old investors have been doing this for a decade or more, like even myself, that say those properties are 100,000 in that neighborhood. I remember when they were 50,000. Even if rents have gone up, but even if it's a good deal at 100, I'm not going to pay that much. Well, a new investor will pay that much because the rents have gone up and the numbers do work. So I think it's just a change and a shift of mindset. I mean, we've been spoiled with 3.5% interest rates for 10 years. And I don't know that we'll ever see that again. And trust me, I wish I would have bought a lot more than I did, because in hindsight,
right? We wish we would have bought everything and hold everything.
I wish I'd never sold anything. We talk about that all
That's
the time,
right.
because it always goes up.
Yes. We all would be multi-millionaire by now.
Yep, 100%. Just a few things. We still have about 30 properties in Nashville, and then I have a dozen or a couple dozen in Lexington. I mean, just in the time that we've owned those, the equity pay down on 20-year mortgages has been substantial, and then the appreciation is insane. So it's really wild to see. But I think that you can do it again in the next 10 years, even with 7% interest rates, if that's where they end up staying.
Well, let's switch gear and go into your operation for a minute. So you have 12 markets. You have local offices in each of the market, I'm assuming?
Yes, that's correct.
Are they all duplication, like identical to each other? Do you also share, like if you have any market that are close enough that you share one central office? Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We think and agree with you that real estate is local, right? And that you have to be in person. You have to attend meetups. You want people to know the brand and know really you as the individual investor. So that's just something we firmly believe in. We start when we launch a market in like a WeWork that has like a short-term lease that if it doesn't work out, we can exit quickly. But for most of our established offices, they're on a 1-year lease. On the smaller markets, we'll have 2 acquisitions and 1 dispo person in that market. And then we have centralized a lot of the operations. So our headquarters is in Nashville, and we have a dozen folks on our contact center team. So all the inbound marketing comes into a central location that's live answered. And then those appointments are booked on a shared calendar for the rep in that market. And then we even have a central dispo team that's helping out with adding VIP buyers to our marketplace, really drumming up interest when a new contract comes in, really working those deals and trying to help find buyers on the back end, making sure that the bids are logged through the marketplace, and really as a support team for the local field offices to help move those deals. And then we've even centralized kind of a follow-up team that if a lead gets old, they're trying to get these folks back on the phone, or if a lead is 80 miles from a home office, they're calling and trying to close it over the phone. They're more of an inside sales team. So tried to centralize some of those things just for training purposes and then just for additional support for the local office. But the local office, like I said, will have a couple, like Houston, you could have 5 sales reps and 6 even in Houston office and probably 2 or 3 dispo people. But an office like Lexington, 2 acquisition, 1 dispo is plenty to cover, the appointments that we run around here in central Kentucky.
Do you have a ratio of how many deals that you expect each of your acquisition person to buy a year, a month?
Yes. So we want them to write at least 8 to 10 contracts per month. And then all of our folks are paid a W-2, and then they also get full benefits. So health, dental, vision, along with the 401k match. So we really try to take away some of the risk of the full 100% commission type job that maybe a real estate agent would fall under. Now, we have a brokerage as well, so we also pay for licensing for all of our reps after the first 30 days. They start on working on getting their real estate license. And that's really important because we want to be able to pay them commissions on retail listings as well. We don't have our cash offer agents right now, at least, also working the retail listings. We have 1099 agents under the brokerage that they can pass off those retail listings to them and let that. It's just a different skill set between making the cash offer and then working the listings. Plus, are you an agent, B?
I am.
Have you worked on that side? So retail listings. I mean, it's a lot of work.
It is.
And a lot of busy work and phones ringing and negotiations and inspections and back and forth. All we want our cash offer agent is writing that next offer, attending networking meetups, and growing the brand that way. And then we want the retail agents focusing on the retail side of the business. And to be honest, only about 10% of our leads, maybe 20%, are cash offer situations that are cash offer appropriate. If they're not in a hurry and they want the most money, we're up front and say, hey, Miss Jones, it sounds like you're not in a hurry and you want the most money. You should list this with our brokerage. That's going to make the most sense for you. And then other people, they need to move. They're closing on a new house. They need that guarantee. They don't want to write a contingent offer, or the home's in disrepair, or they inherited it and they just don't want to mess with it. That's 20% of the leads that we get. And then 30% of them are just tire kickers, right? Oh, you sent me a letter. I just wanted to see what my house was worth. So you have to make sure that the contact center on the front end can suss those out and not waste time by putting those on our appointment calendars.
Yeah, it's the funniest when they call and say, well, you send me a letter. Tell me what you're going to offer. I'm like, I don't know what your address is. Well, you send me a letter, don't you know?
Exactly, 100%. I wish my system was that mapped out. That'd be pretty
Wouldn't
sweet
that be
if you called,
awesome?
I knew all the info.
Having been involved in multiple markets, I typically say to, new investors that getting into real estate, don't pay attention to national headlines because those are to sell views and, clicks and ads and stuff. But you being involved in multiple market, how much of that affect you? Like, do you, what do you follow to stay up to trend with market conditions, trend, what's going on? What do you read? What do you follow?
That's a great question. Every market is different. Some of our bigger markets, like in Austin or in Nashville, are definitely seeing, larger price drops and things, longer days on market, I should say, with property. Lexington, we were kind of talking about this before the podcast. We're surrounded by horse farms, and so it's all protected by what's called an urban service boundary, meaning we're landlocked, but not by water, but by these farms. So there's no development sprawl outside. So it just leads to infill development. So there was a stat I read the other day by just following local news that said 50% of the people that work now in Lexington live outside of Lexington. So everyone's having to jump the horse farms, go to these other communities and cities surrounding, and then drive and commute into work. Similar to how that's happened in the larger metropolitans. Everyone kind of gets pushed out to the suburbs and priced out of the cities. But I really set up alerts and Google News alerts for every market that we're in because they're all so different. And I think that following a national narrative is definitely a mistake. I think it's a lot of fear mongering. I think it's really important to be involved with and on top of the news in your local market. And that also, when you meet with sellers and investors, you're more knowledgeable on the local market versus just making, broad brush strokes about a national, shortage or interest rate. Just it's better to have local knowledge. So I think when following that stuff, and especially for new investors, is learn everything you can about your local market and just kind of avoid some of the large national statements and things. I mean, it's good to follow the national stuff, but don't treat it as gospel.
Okay, so big operation. What keeps you awake at night?
I would say just, we have investors now. So we raised 65 million in 2021. And, that's when I really became went from a small business owner to a corporate employee, because, I want to make sure that we do right by them. And I want to make sure we do right by everyone in our company that has put, spent so much time and energy and blood, sweat, and tears to help get us to where we are. And make sure they're motivated and down for it to keep pushing. The company's gone through a lot of change. It's always changing. That causes fatigue. People wear out from different systems and process changes and commission structure changes and new faces coming in. So I don't know where to start, but there's quite a bit that keeps me awake at night. But I have a great team on the leadership side, and then everyone in the contact center. All our sales folks in Nashville. Our title team is amazing. All the new faces we have in the field offices. The people is the fun part for me, and to be able to have an impact on them and to see them come in and get quick wins when they first start. That's what encourages me, and really from that perspective helps me sleep even better at night, just knowing we're doing right by the people. But the systems, the processes, the change fatigue, all of that stuff could definitely stress you out. And then just making sure that we're all pushing in the same direction and pulling the boat in the same way, so that it's a profitable company before too long. Because these companies with VC-backed firm, I didn't realize this early on. Well, when we first started talking to LL, a lot of these companies are set up to they don't want you to make, like Al Brandon and I always bootstrapped it, so we had to make a profit every year. And we had to show a profit because that's what we distributed and lived on to feed our families. With these type of VC companies, honestly, they want you to manage to a certain amount of cash burn every year. So they want that you can burn so much cash and you forecast your runway based on how much you have in the bank that they've invested. But they want to ensure that most of the money that's generated is going back into either technology, systems, processes, people. So a lot of any profit is basically reinvested to scale the business larger. So we try to manage to a couple $1 million burn every year and ensure that by doing that, we're building out the proper technology and that we're building out the big system that we can show that we put $1 in, we get $3 out.
Sidetrack a little bit. I've been told that these VC companies are really good at going into a company and trying to 3x or 5x it. Is that what your experience has been so far?
100%. Oh, yes, absolutely. And we're very fortunate with the group that we work with. I mean, I remember our first board meeting, Al and Brandon are like, this is in fall of 21. We're like, in 2022, I think we had 8 offices. We're like, we're going to open 12 more offices. And they're like, no. Slow down. You don't want to do that because you three are touching every part of the business right now. You need to go hire someone in HR. You need to go hire someone in finance and accounting. You need to go hire someone in product and tech. You need to go hire someone as VP of sales. And they said, go slow in 2022 to go fast in 2023 and beyond. And that was good advice because the biggest danger with growing a company is scaling too fast when you're trying to scale, because it will leave you basically bankrupt because you'll spend too much money on the wrong things. And so having their support to say, it's okay, we just made this investment in you. We were concerned that they put all this money in and they're just going to want to see it, the
Mm-hmm.
hockey stick up. But they realize, they had seen the movie before and been down this route, and they realize it's a process. You have to build out the systems and the processes. You can't just, go from 0 to 100 without any systems or process, or the money will definitely evaporate
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
scenario. So we've been very fortunate and love our board and our investors for sure.
So, Scott, are you the 4-hour work week guy or 80 hours work week guy?
I'm probably like the 60-hour work week. Definitely not the 4. This is not a lifestyle business play. That was another thing our investors said early on. They said, "Hey guys, you all have a great business that you bootstrapped. You could continue to do this and probably make more money each year for, more money per year for the next 5, 10 years or the next 10, 15 years, however long you do it. Or we can go hard over the next 5 years and have a life-changing event, meaning that we can sell to a larger entity or have an IPO and go public." So we were like, at this time, Alan, Brandon, and I are all in our early 40s. We were all about 40 at that time. We're like, you know what? Let's go for it. Most companies don't get the opportunity to kind of jump on and hitch their wagon to something like this. Let's go for it and try, and I think that we can do it, and we are going to do it, and that's the exciting part with having this team now that's behind us, and we just brought on some really great people on our sales side. We have an awesome product and tech team, so it's great to see this stuff kind of come to life and the dream really blossom the way that it has.
All right, you just threw a curveball at me because I wasn't going to ask these questions because for the longest time, I really believe that the wholesale business is not a build to sale business. And you read the book Build to Sell?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So now you're teaching me that this wholesale operation is sellable, marketable.
Well, Rebuild is much more than just a wholesale company. Like I said, we have a title company, we have a brokerage, we have lending, but really our marketplace is the $1 billion vision. So marketplace.rebuild.com is where investors can sign up to view. Currently, it's only rebuilt properties across the country that we have assignable contracts or properties for sale. By Q4 or early 2023, it'll have the ability for other wholesalers to post their deals on the marketplace. But really what we're doing is aggregating all the off-market properties across the country in one place and making it filterable by, bed and bath count, market, price point, exit strategy. We also include like financial analysis on there, so you can analyze a property for fix or flip and kind of see the expenses that are tied to it. But the idea is that it's almost like a Shopify model. It'll allow an investor in New York to buy a property in Houston, bid on it through the marketplace. Title work will be handled through the marketplace. They can apply for lending through the marketplace. And then the Shopify model comes in where we'll have construction, property management, insurance, all built in and vertically integrate. So all of those services will be available through the marketplace. So it'll just really open up the ability for a coastal investor to invest in the Midwest or the South, or anyone to invest not just in their local market, but on a national level. Because to be honest, like in California, as you know, and in New York, it's hard to get any kind of returns. So they love the South. And that's really where these field offices are mainly in the South. The reason the field offices are in the transactional side of the business is so important is, number one, it creates revenue to pay for the development for a lot of this stuff. And it also seeds the marketplace with inventory. And it makes it a place that investors want to come to see inventory and to see deals and to buy deals. The marketplace has really been something transformative to our business. Previously, we had all the info on all of our sellers. We knew like the age of the seller, the demographics, the zip codes, but we weren't collecting any of that information on our investors. Because if they saw a property they'd like, they'd call the local dispo agent, he'd sign it up, or she would sign it up, and it wasn't really tracked. We didn't have the title company at the time. Now we have that, so we can track that data. But now we can see how, which investors are bidding on the marketplace, how often they're bidding, what percentage of the ask that they're bidding, who our top buyers are. we're really building a company. Our core customer is the mom and pop investor. So we're building something for the mom and pop investor as a tool that they can use to invest, not only in their own market, but all over the country. And that's really what Rebuild is growing, and Rebuild is all about. The title company we started for ourselves because we were struggling to have all these open deals all over the country with different title companies. And then the lending business, that was another thing. We kind of lending ourselves money to buy properties. Initially, it was Al and Brandon, and I use them, our current credit lines to buy for ourselves. And then the brokerage was really started more out of a necessity because of we were doing so much volume that we're starting to get board complaints from local agents and stuff saying, hey, they're doing real estate without a license. And we're like, hey, but we actually have the property under contract. But our board was like, if you're going to do brokerage at some point anyway, go ahead and do it now when you're only 70 people versus 170 and get everyone licensed. And that way you also have another product to offer with the retail listing side of the business. And so brokerage rollout's been a little choppy, but we're starting to put the pieces in place and make sure we can kind of swim in both lanes with retail and off market.
Well, I'm so excited for you. Okay, so we're wrapping up here, Scott. What is the one thing that our audience might be surprised to learn about you?
Well, I used to be a professional magician. How about that?
Oh, really? Come on, do a trick for us here.
No, I knew that was going to be a follow-up. No, in high school, I did magic shows and birthday parties. So maybe if you see me out at a bar or a mastermind or something, then I'll do a coin trick or put a cigarette through a coin or something fun like that. But no, that's something that not many people know about me. I used to do professional magic.
You probably did that so you can get dates.
That's right. It never worked though. I didn't get that from my wife. I actually picked my wife up because I could speak Spanish. She liked that, and I was rapping in Spanish when we met. So she liked that I could rap and also speak Spanish.
I would never have guessed.
Yeah, right.
Your last name I couldn't tell.
Well, I learned Spanish in college and then studied abroad. So I learned in school. I'm not a native speaker.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so last questions. How does the audience get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is very easy to find me. There's not many Pennebakers, so Scott Pennebaker on LinkedIn.
I hope you are as fired up as I am. I'm so glad we talked to Scott today. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with more amazing stories and insight from our real estate ballers. Thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, keep hustling and keep going at it.